r/AskReddit. Dear Reddit, what is your all-time most embarrassing moment? I had a great day at a water park/outdoor pool, and towards the afternoon a woman came up to me and whispered in my ear that I have a problem with my swimsuit. I reached behind and noticed a huge gap. The fabric was torn right in the middle, and you could see my white and tanned crack. I was running around like this all day and no one said anything. If it makes you feel any better, I tore the back of my leggings sliding down a rock face while hiking a mountain on a third date. And I decided not to wear underwear because visible underwear lines would have been embarrassing if my date was hiking right behind me. Another hiking party had a drone and managed to capture footage of the beautiful scenery, including me trying to navigate difficult terrain while covering my crack with one hand. Was on an airplane years ago with my girlfriend and her parents. My girlfriend couldn't get a seat next to me and sat directly behind me. During the flight I thought I would surprise her and reached my hand back onto her knee. Slowly I kept extending it up her thigh until I heard giggling. Looked behind through the seats and saw that my hand was on the leg of the guy next to her. He saw my face and said, "I just wanted to see how far you'd go." Of course my girlfriend was in on it and started laughing along with the rest of the row. Was so embarrassed. I had made a short film that had gotten into a festival and I had to travel down to Busan from Seoul on the fast train. Super expensive. I was looking good, wearing cool clothes including a pair of leather shoes I had thrifted. Bad mistake. By the time I left the subway in Busan and walked 100 meters towards the theater where I was due to give a speech, the top of one of the shoes was starting to flap. I managed to hook my big toe over it to hold it down, but the sides were now lifting up. People I was passing were starting to notice as it looked like I had a club foot. In the end, I had to take the shoe off and throw it away. I now had one shoe and a limp. This was in an area full of apartments, no shops, not even a convenience store. I hopped along. Then the other shoe came apart, and I had to throw that away. What the frick should I do? I'm in an unfamiliar city, shoeless, and on top of that the glue had left big black oily patches on my feet. I walked shoeless to the theater. If you know Korea at all, you know how well dressed people are. I honestly didn't know what I should do. Not go? Even though I was expected, and it would ruin my reputation, I honestly felt like crying. I made it to the theater and was ushered to the front. Before I could explain my situation to my co-director, I had to give a speech shoeless and with oily feet to people I was trying to impress. Then I had to walk to find a store shoeless. Not the most embarrassing, but definitely stands out as one of the most hopeless situations I have been in. In the end I had to buy shoes from a department store. Not only were they $300 designer sneakers, they were too big so looked like clown shoes. I couldn't sell them because they were full of oil from my dirty feet. Worst trip of my life. I really sympathize with how hopeless it feels to lose a shoe/shoes. I was crossing the Oxford Circus crossing in London doing some after work shopping last Christmas. The crowds were huge because of the season, and it was one of those crossings that cross perpendicular to the roads and also diagonally, so there's a bit of a mess in the middle where everyone meets and tries to dodge around each other to get across. Anyway, somewhere in the melee, someone steps on the back of my right shoe and it comes off. It's like a small pump/ballet shoe type thing, so easy to slip off. The crowd's pushing to get across before the traffic starts, and I just get swept along to the pavement hopping/hobbling, abandoning my shoe. Couple of people have noticed that there's a shoe in the middle of the road. Maybe one person realizes it's mine. Bit bad, but I can go and grab it next green man light. So I wait at the side of the road. Unfortunately, the traffic starts rolling and my shoe gets stuck in the tread of a wheel of a double-decker and rolls sadly out of sight, never to be seen again. Luckily I was around a bunch of shops, but there is just something so disheartening about losing a shoe. I felt so sad for the rest of the day. Oh my gosh, I had a similar thing happen to me. I was heading home in London rush hour. I worked in an area where a lot of banks had their offices, so the street was full of well-dressed people. Suddenly, my shoes literally starts to fall apart. The top flaps open. The bottom comes off and all of a sudden I'm hobbling along the street in a hurry to catch my train. The shoe was still connected to my ankle, but with every step it was just flapping around, making weird noises. I had a lovely 1-hour commute with people giving me the side eye. This was during my sophomore year in math class. I sat between two gentlemen. I was really congested that day, and thus pretty tired at the same time. I was resting my head in my hand and hunched over my math book when I felt a sneeze coming. I went to lean back but apparently didn't move quick enough when the force of this sneeze sent my face hurling into my desk. My head smacked the desk so hard that I bounced back up like a basketball. At that point I was just dizzy and like, Meanwhile, the two guys next to me just completely lose their minds. The one on the right is howling with laughter. The one on the left has his face in his hands and is snorting. The teacher looked at us so confused and all I could say was, I sneezed. This reminds me of a story that happened, gosh, maybe 8 years ago. Anyways, my brother was a bit sick at home and had the most monstrous sneeze. Now, apparently he had been building up the amount of snot inside his nose. A large glob of a snot mucus mix came out of his mouth and nose and hit the desk in front of him. A split second later he recoiled from the force and slammed his face into it. My sophomore year of high school I had a crush on a girl that I had a class with. We'd talked a few times, but I didn't know her that well. It was around Valentine's Day and our school did a thing where you'd pay $10 and student volunteers would go sing a song you picked in class to whoever you picked and give them a card. So instead of approaching her like a normal person for a date, I decided to go with a singing Valentine. I plunked down my $10, signed up, and started getting extremely nervous about the next day. That afternoon I told my friend what I'd done, and he started laughing and laughing. More than if he were just laughing at a bad idea. Finally he told me that the girl had a boyfriend. He was a senior, and I was an idiot. The next morning I explained the situation to a friend of mine that was involved in the program, and after he finished laughing he told me it was too late. Singing assignments were out. It was going to happen. My only hope was that, since singers and time are limited, they wouldn't get to mine, which is a thing that would sometimes happen, and you got your $10 back and not humiliated. So our class together rolls around, which of course I had sent it to that one, and I start watching the clock. A couple other people got the singing Valentines, but with about 10 minutes left mine still hadn't come. Then the door opened, and instead of the one person with a boombox we normally had, there were three. One was the guy I had begged to cancel it, who gave me the biggest smile as they set up. Now, song options had been limited. This was before streaming existed, so it was just what they happened to have CDs of. I honestly didn't know most of the songs, and didn't want to go sappy, so I went with the one higher tempo song I knew, Wild Thing. So the announce to the Valentine was for and she blushed, I'm sure assuming it was from her boyfriend. They started singing and she blushed harder. They handed her the card that I had written my name in, and her face stopped being pink and went far more red. She looked over at me and all I could do was shrug. After they left she said out loud, but you, I have a boyfriend, and then everyone knew it was from me. I just muttered that I'd found out too late and happy Valentine's Day and I'm sorry. That was the most embarrassed I've ever been. Edit. Well, that blew up. To answer a couple questions, no, we never ended up going out or anything. We are both happily married to other people now. I assume her boyfriend found out, but I don't think he knew who I was, and I never heard anything from him about it. I don't know if he sent her one in another class or not. Yes, my friend is a jerk for not cancelling it, but that's what friends do. Edit 2. Looking back, the right play would have been to tell her before class what had happened and tell her to pretend it was from her boyfriend. So if you ever find yourself in this situation, I guess do that. I was at an NFL game and something I had ate earlier had just wrecked my stomach and left me with horrible gas. Like the kind which clears a room, it is so bad. I was walking up the stairs to my seat mid-game and really had to let one rip. Right then the crowd cheered, and I thought the moment was right. What I didn't realize is that my butt was at the same level as a woman sitting in her seat on the aisle and I literally farted right in her ear. I looked back at her as she looked at me with shock and disgust. I quickly turned away and climbed the stairs as fast as I could and blended into the crowd. I still think about it time to time and how horrible that must have truly been for her, and just cringe at what an idiot I was. This reminds me of an embarrassing story in which I was involved. My parents took my grandparents to Disneyland Paris, and at the end of the last day my grandfather was all hyped up because of his 3 young grandchildren. He ran to the front of the pack, bent over and let a huge one rip. He got up, looked back laughing, only to find out he just did it to 2 random people walking right in front of us. His face got red, sewed on quickly, and all of us just couldn't keep on our feet. So hard we were laughing. There was a moment when on a stair full of people arriving by train at main station, I let one rip so bad the girl in front of me started waving her hand in her face. Nobody could escape. The stairs were so tightly packed. I had something very similar happen to me. I had just got off the train to work and was strolling up the hill to the office when I felt a pressing urge to let one fly. There was no one around, so I let her rip, figuring it wouldn't be anything too out of the ordinary, but I miscalculated it badly. It was a much bigger proposition than I'd thought it'd be. It was enormous, loud, raucous, a true dog frightener. I was just in the process of congratulating myself on birthing such a monster without even breaking stride when a small woman, all dressed for the office, went hurrying by, her stilettos tacking on the concrete path. The realization didn't really hit me for about 5 seconds, but she would have been only a pace or 2 behind me when I let it fly, and she was obviously hurrying to put as much distance between me and her as humanly possible. Oh god. I was so bloody embarrassed. I ducked into the nearest doorway and let her get a good 100 meters up the road before I continued on my way. Recently went on a vacation with some friends and a mutual friend who I don't know that well. He and I took the pull-out couches, and his was right next to the bathroom. Later one night, when we were all walking around away from our hotel, I got the stomach rumbles. Then the nausea hit. I have never felt so sick in my life. It felt like someone was grabbing my insides and twisting them. The second we got back to our hotel, I made a beeline for the bathroom. Through that paper-thin wall, this guy I barely knew heard me poop pure liquid out of my body, complete with loud, wet farts, cry, and vomit in a trash can in front of me. I spent the rest of the night shivering in bed and making runs to the bathroom. I hit the been married for a decade barrier with them in a single night. Food poisoning is a jerk. I was a theater kid and didn't have stage fright or anything. But when I was a freshman in high school, I had my first panic attack hours before I was to play the goose in our production of Charlotte's Web. I also have chronic migraines, and it caused a big one, complete with excruciating pain, light and sound sensitivity, and lots of nausea, and I had forgotten my prescription painkillers at home, so I was stuck with it. It was a bad day. I tried to push through it all and got into costume and a full face of goose makeup. I'm feeling horrible, but the show must go on. As soon as I walk out for my first scene, bright stage lights are piercing into my head, and a wave of nausea just courses through me. I had to be on stage about 5 minutes for that first scene. Tried to swallow it down between lines. A lot of my classmates were out in the audience too. I open my mouth to say my last line, and it's just herb. I vomit on the stage and all over my own lap in front of 300 people. The senior boy playing my counterpart, the gander, accidentally whispered "oh crap" into his mic and rubbed my back to try and calm me down. That was nice of him. Somehow I got off stage and puked the rest of my guts out into the bathroom. The drama club teacher was nice enough to let me know she wouldn't charge me for the pukey costume. TLDR, bathed in front of half the school. 10 years later and it still haunts me. Public vomiting is the most horrible thing. This is bringing back horrible memories for me. I was taking the train into DC from Manassas, which was like an hour ride. I was in the process of starting an internship in the city, and I was super nervous about it. I hadn't been feeling well that morning because of the nerves, and having to sit in a backward seat on the train made it so much worse. I puked all over myself while sitting next to a professional looking stranger. The train was completely full, so he had to sit there next to me and my vomit the whole ride. I just looked out the window and cried and pretended not to exist. Thankfully Union Station has an H&M. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and comment down below. Please subscribe and click the notification bell for more videos like this. Don't forget to leave your stories in the comments below.